Today, we're going to be interviewing a special guest. Cristina Kudlock is a successful investor in the Phoenix market, in the LA market, and has explored some other opportunities as well. What's unique about Christina is that she launched her business, wanted to use primarily SEO, search engine optimization, to start her business, looked at what it costs to hire an agency. I think even kind of toyed around with that, didn't like the results that she saw from that, so she took it upon herself to learn about SEO. Well, fast forward in a very short period of time, she got her website to the number one ranking in the LA market in under a year, and she did this all on her own. Now all of us look to her for advice, counsel, guidance on how to best manage our SEO and solutions. So I'm really excited to introduce you to her today. This is going to be a three-part interview because we got a lot of great content. And so please stay tuned, enjoy meeting Christina, and you will not be disappointed in learning about SEO from one of the masters. Welcome to the Real Freedom Channel. Today, we are really excited to welcome Cristina Kudlock, who's a friend of ours we've known for a couple of years through Investor Fuel, and we've developed a personal relationship beyond that. We know her husband, Jason, well, and my wife, Christina, and Christina are really good friends. And I've always admired Christina's abilities in a couple of areas, not the least of which is she seems to know more about SEO than anyone I've met. She went from a zero start to taking her page to the number one page in LA in just a little bit over a year, which is pretty phenomenal. She's also done some really amazing stuff with virtual wholesaling and working remotely. And so, Christina, I'd like to get into as much of that as we can, but I guess what would make this most meaningful is tell me and tell our audience, how can you best help customers?
Yeah. So, I mean, the cool thing about doing or working with customers is that it kind of changes from a deal to deal basis, right? We show up for sellers, however whatever their needs are, and find a way to navigate the best way to give them an offer that's going to make selling their house uh, with as least amount of headaches and hassles as possible. So, for instance, a recent property that we were working on, we got a call from it was actually the brother of the seller who wanted to sell this property. And his brother had recently, he moved out of the property. He was going through a really tough time because his wife had passed previous year. Yeah. And he's just, he was having a really hard time being in the property by himself, and finally just picked up one day and decided to move back home to Virginia, like all the way across the country. And he just left everything there. Like he just, emotionally, he wasn't ready to deal with it or didn't want to deal with it. And so when his brother called me, his brother actually had called on behalf of the seller and basically said, hey, we have this property. I don't know the condition of it because he hadn't been in it, right? And wanted me to give him an offer. And he had no idea what the property looked like, and actually had a friend that was going to be kind of watching over the property. She had keys, right? And so he called, we made the arrangement that this lady was going to be reaching out to me so that we could just get a quick walkthrough through the property. And she never called. So I got back in touch with him, and he was like, yeah, I've been really kind of stressed about this because she's not answering us and I have no way to get into this property, right? And so we're like, okay, well, here's what we can do to help. And we actually rekeyed the property for them and put a lockbox on the property. That way they still had access into it if they needed it. And what, kind of worked through that so that we could get into the property, see its condition. It needed a lot of work. He had actually some like cats still living in the property.
Oh my.
So I know. And so we were able to get those adopted to a shelter, and then was able to make him an offer based on just, what the property needed. And one of the things too is, since he's in another state, it came with all of the stuff that he just left behind. So we were able to purchase the property and then, donate everything that was salvageable. And then, there was a lot of just kind of trash left behind too. So we did junk removal for all of that. So they didn't need to deal with anything.
That's
And
great.
so that's one situation. Obviously, that's not every, most sellers, that's kind of out of the box.
Sure.
But any way that we need to show up for the sellers that we work with, we're ready to do what needs to be done to get them their offer.
Well, I've always admired the creativity that you have in putting together like solutions. And at the end of the day, that's what we do. I mean,
Right.
we're not buying real estate at full retail prices. We're tending to buy real estate that there's some sort of distress, some sort of problem, and solving that problem is often the most important thing. And you definitely did that there. I know that you guys have
Absolutely.
some really creative solutions for pretty much any situation like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was out of the box for sure. But if that's what needs to be done, well, we can do it.
Outstanding. Well,
Yeah.
I'm just dying to ask about SEO because you know more about that than anyone that I've met. And, I enjoy hearing you speak about that, in front of various groups. And I'm always amazed at your, the width and breadth of your knowledge in that area. Um,
Thanks.
I clearly don't have a great deal of knowledge in SEO because that's not something that I've focused on.
Mhm.
What sort of things would you like to tell people like me about SEO, how it may benefit them, how they may utilize it, who's it not for? Just kind of give you a wide open forum for SEO here, and please just share your knowledge.
Yeah, so SEO is basically the art or the science of kind of like showing up first on Google, usually Google or any other search engine, really. That if somebody types in phrases that you're going after, you're going to be number one for, or at least, very high up the page. Phrases for a real estate investor like us would be, sell my house fast, get a cash offer for my house, things like that. And so when people are typing these things into Google, you want to be the first website to pop up. And what's really great about these kinds of leads, it's very different than like, some really common marketing channels in our industry are cold calling, texting,
Mhm.
sending direct mail. It's ways for us to reach out to people to see if they want to sell their house. And those are great strategies. But one of the things that I like about SEO that's so different than that, it's that people are actually coming to you. So as opposed to you, reaching out to all these people and hoping that you hit someone at the right time and find someone who's in the mindset of wanting to sell their house, the people that are coming to you with SEO, they've already decided that they want to sell their house, right? And they're in the mindset of, I just need to get an offer now. Like they're ready. They want you to come to their house right now so that they can get a solution to their problem, right? Whereas,
So they've made some level of decision that any of the other
exactly.
marketing channels is hitting them before that. And so, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
And it's crazy too. You'll get somebody who will say like, yeah, you know what, I've gotten all these postcards, but maybe those postcards didn't resonate with them, and they're just trying to find their own solution online. Or there's other instances where they lost the postcard that
Mhm.
someone else sent them. So you really do find people who they're being proactive about it, right? They're ready, and not only one of the cool things about it is that it makes it a completely different kind of conversation. Whereas opposed to like if you're cold calling someone and you're asking, a huge, pillar that we do to try to qualify people to see if it is a good lead is asking, why do you want to sell, and kind of trying to find out the situation that's going on with someone, on why they would want to sell their property. And if you're cold calling someone, usually they're like, well, you called me, like, why do you want, I'm just trying to get an
Right.
offer.
What's your offer? Yeah.
Yeah. As opposed to somebody who's reaching out to you for information, it's just a completely different conversation. They're thrilled to be talking to you, or maybe not thrilled, but like they've requested to talk to you, right? And so they're just so much more they're just it's easier to kind of take them through your sales process, and they're more apt to answering all of your questions and figuring out if you're a right fit for them and you guys are a right fit for each other. So that's kind of that's why I love SEO leads. And then I had, one of the people often ask me, they're like, how do you even like get started in SEO? And this was, at the beginning of my real estate investing journey, and was, just learning about different kinds of marketing channels and what was going to work for me. And I saw an interview with someone, and they were talking about how SEO is the only lead strategy that actually gets cheaper over time. And so I thought that was just like really cool. That
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, look, there's something to this. I want to learn more about this. But to answer one of your previous questions, you said, who is it for? Who is it not for? Kind of a thing. And it's definitely not for somebody who is looking for quick results right now. Like SEO it's a long-term, game strategy. Like you said, it took me a year to get to be number one in LA. And I was getting leads along the way here and there, but it wasn't consistent. SEO is rarely a main marketing channel. You have to be very open to the areas you're looking to investing in. If you're trying to look for a lot of leads, you need to go far, and you can't say, oh, I want to, you can be number one in, like, let's say Lubbock, Texas, but you're just not going to see the lead volume that, if you're trying to really scale. So that is one thing about SEO. It is hard to scale. It is, unless you're willing to really go wide. It's not something where you're going to be getting like 10 leads a day from. But it is, one of the things that I love about it is because I don't necessarily, at least in my business, I don't always, I do want more leads, but more leads isn't always better. From my perspective, I would rather have more qualified leads than just leads, and people that you're talking to all day that really don't want to sell their house or aren't going to be selling it at a discount. It's looking for people that are a little bit more qualified, and I don't know if that makes me lazy or what, but
that sounds like effectiveness to me.
Yeah.
If you're like me, you were probably blown away with the simplicity with which Cristina goes through this topic. And yeah, she's a subject matter expert without a doubt. So what comes, simple and easy for her might be a little bit more of a learning curve for you or I. But if this is something that you're interested in learning about, make sure and stay tuned for the second and third episodes, where she'll talk specifically about how to integrate SEO into a wholesaling business, and talk specifically about real estate wholesaling, which she's also very good at. Sometimes hiring an agency is the right approach. If that's not in your budget, however, because it's not inexpensive, and more importantly, if you're really interested in learning about SEO, I'd encourage you to be like Cristina, learn what you can, and just start implementing, because I'm not going to say that you can't make any mistakes, but you can't make any unrecoverable mistakes. And she's certainly evidence of the fact that if you put your mind to it and apply yourself, you can create a very workable SEO marketing channel for your business, which is something that we all would love. So stay tuned for the second and third episodes, where she'll talk more specifically about how this relates to wholesaling. But I hope you enjoyed this, and we appreciate you joining us.